Hello everyone, welcome to Aja Coding Tutor. Today we would like to discuss about Java Spring Boot application and how we can save or get data from the database. So this is a typical Spring Boot application, and inside that we have a Spring Boot application base class. So basically, the main advantage of the Spring Boot, along with Java is it will speed up the development life cycle. So that is the main advantage of Spring Boot. We have more advantages as well, but this is the first main advantage. And so, as I said, I want to save the data into database. So let me create an project structure. Um, on top of SRC main Java, I am creating a package, or I'm creating a controller, and it is an employee controller, and the package naming should be always structural. So since I'm having a controller class, so I'm following, as of now, I'm following MVC architecture in my project. So in MVC application, typically we use model view controller like controllers, service, repository, and POJO classes. So using these, level of classes, we take the request from the database. We save the data into the database, and I have created an controller class and the controller package, and let me create service and repository packages and classes as well. Right click on SRC in Java, choose class and employee service, and the package. I'm choosing some default. I want to name it as service since it is an employee service. So it will create a package structure and the class inside it, and so we will use multiple annotations. We will come back, but as of now, I'm creating a project structure, and it is an Maven based application, Maven based project. So the main there are several build tools like Maven and Gradle and all. So as of now, I'm using a Maven. It's just a build tool. So whatever code you are writing inside your classes and all, using this build tool, it will build an application and it will give you an the end output. And SRC in Java, I'm creating a repository. Basically, it will be an interface, employee repository, and as I need to create package, the package name repository. These are all naming conventions, so there is no hard and soft rule that we must use repository, we must use service, we must use controller. These are the standards. You can even use XYZ ABC, anything you want to use, you can use. Yeah. So I have created a controller class and the service class and the repository. Now I need to create a POJO class, and the class name is employee. And so if you notice, all my packages are extending the base package, which is calm.example.demo here. Okay, this is the base package and class. So on top of this base package, I am creating controller, I am creating repository, I am creating service, and I'm creating POJO as well. Yes. So the main importance of extending the base package, basically this Spring Boot application, this class is a base class. What happens internally, Spring scans all the classes which are extending this package. So this is the main heart of the Spring Boot application. You can say this is the combination of multiple annotations like at the rate configuration, at the rate component scan, So this component scan will scan all the classes, employee controller and employee repository employee, and it will create all the packages and it will identify what are the classes available inside it. So it will create a beans. Beans are nothing but an objects, and Spring will manage all these objects. So basically, we are these objects we call it as beans in the Spring context. So beans or objects are more or less same. Okay, let's come back to controller, and we have to use some annotations which are available in the Spring framework. um, there are plenty of annotations since we want to save the data into database. So basically we will get the data from the front end, okay, or the web. So the data will come to the Java applications like Spring Boot application, and using the Spring Boot application, whatever data we are getting from the front end or the web, we will store it in the database. So the structure would be you have to use an annotation called REST controller annotation. And since it is an annotation, so you have to import this. And this annotation is coming from Spring Framework. So that is the reason, okay, we just imported it. Because we are using Spring Boot application, right? So we must use all the annotations or the help or the libraries, whatever available from the Spring Framework. Yeah. So the main advantage of this REST controller is basically this is a combination of controller and the response body. So it will accept the incoming request from the web. As of now, I'm using Postman here. Okay. So as soon as you send data, the request will come to this controller. Okay. And from the web, from this to the Spring Boot application. So internally there is some process that that we can discuss later. But you can consider the web request, whatever you're sending from the web or the front end or the Postman. Usually, it will come to the controllers. So this act as a front gate to your application. Then, so I use REST controller here, and the for the service we can use service annotation at service. Then for the repository, sorry, let me import that. So it is showing a red symbol here, right? If you hover it, so it is saying something. So what it is saying, it is suggesting, it will provide some suggestions. So it is suggesting these four options. So obviously first one is an preferable load. So I just imported it. An employee repository, and we can use a repository annotation, and we extend that repository. Employee and the primary key value. I mean primary key data type. And as of I didn't create any employee POJO here. Let me, oh, I created it. Let me import that here. Sorry. So this is an employee class, and we must use annotation called at entity. So this employee object, so what happens? So the data we are sending from the front end, the data will bind to this employee object, and this object will be stored into the database. So that is the reason we are mentioning it as entity class, and it table is an optional. Basically, if you are not providing this table annotation, a table will be created in the database with this name. and you can define properties. Let me import this as well. So ensure using Jakarta library uh, for all these annotations. Let me define some variables or the properties. Basically, employee will have ID, and he will have name, and he will have salary. He also have a department. Yeah, department we can take, or city. Properties depends on my requirement. I can choose any property. So as of now, I'm using four properties. Department. You can use phone, email, etc. Anything, whatever you want. Okay. And so we have to make use of few annotations. Because a table in the database will be created with the same name and the same properties that you are mentioning here. We are using column annotation and column annotations. So basically, what this annotation will do, this will create a table in the database, and in that, using this column, you will have a column in the database as well. And you have to provide setters and getters. Let me use the Eclipse support to generate setters and getters. So choose the fields which you want to generate the setters and getters. So I'm choosing all the four setters and getters. Fine. And we can use it. So we can use another annotation, generated type. So basically, I want to use that generated value. So this annotation, basically what happens, so the table will have primary keys. So as soon as you save or you send data from the front end, that table itself will create a ID column will get incremented. So that is the reason I'm mentioning auto generated type is equal to auto. Fine. It's fine. So basically, we just created a skeleton, controller, and service, then repository, and POJO classes as well. Let me use correct repository. Fine. So we must provide our POJO class name here and the primary key of that POJO class, which is employee. And what is the primary key? And ID is the primary key, and we have to provide the data type here. So internally, this will help dealing with the all the primary key and auto generation values. Let's go back to controller, and in the controller, so first I would like to create a method, and the return type of this method is it will return the same employee object which we are saving it into the database. Method name save employee, and so Let me use an annotation called request body, and whatever employee or whatever object that we are sending from the front end, we will use it here. Sorry, it is small. Import and let me auto employee service. Let me use an annotation called auto. Auto-wide is an annotation, so it will inject the employee service into employee controller, and using this reference variable, we can access whatever properties or behaviors like variables or methods inside this service. It is nothing but a creation of object, but in Spring context, we are using auto-wide annotation to inject this employee service into employee control. And so let me call this, or let me send this employee object to the service layer. In service layer, if I want to perform any operations, I can perform some more operations, depends on the requirement. Then I can store the data into the database. So as of now, I don't have any method in the employee service. Let me create that. You can manually create, or you can use this until STS or the or ID support. So in the service layer, what I'm doing as of now, I'm following MVC architecture. The request will come to the service layer, controller layer. As I said, it is act as a front controller. The request will go to the service layer. I'm sending request. This is the employee request. I'm sending to the service layer. This is the service layer, right? From the service layer, what I'll do, I'll pass this, employee object to this repository layer. Since I want to access that repository layer, I must inject into the service layer. Employee repository, employee repository, and let me use the same annotation I used in the controller, auto it. And using these, I can send same employee object to the database. So save is an existing method in the JPA repository, where it is a predefined method. So we are not writing any method, any save method in our application. This is a save method provided by the JPA repository. So we can directly use the internal method. Internally, what this save method will do, it will save this employee object into the database. Okay, let me verify all the code that we have written. We are getting some error here. Add a return statement. Yes, since we are trying to return this employee object, I can return here. I can directly return here. Let me do that straight away instead of extending our lines. And employee repository looks good. Employee is also looks good. So as I'm saying, I'm saving the data into the database. We must configure those database configurations in our application. So this is an SRC main Java. within SRC main resources, we have a file called application.properties, and this application.properties will have all the property related details. Let's say I want to configure database. So whatever database related details like username, URL, password, dialect. So those are the configuration details we can configure here. So basically these are the properties is we have configured here. URL, I am providing this URL here and the username and the password. So basically MySQL database is already installed in my system, and I have username and password with me. So same username password I provided here. So if you are installed MySQL database and you have provided username password on your own like XYZ, if you're providing root and root here, it will not work. So you must provide the same username password of your MySQL database, and the driver class name, and this is also we have configured here. Then coming back to pom.xml. So as I said, I'm using Maven build tool. So I've provided pom.xml here. As of now, I didn't provide much dependencies here. I provided Spring Starter Web and Lombard and MySQL and H2 database. So these are the main configuration details I have in my Spring Boot application. So let me build this application. Right click, run as Maven clean, and there are Maven lifecycle goals. Clean install are the main we use. Let me use Maven install. What it will do, it will download all the dependencies whatever required for your application, and it will store it into the your Maven local repository. First, it will try to get it from the Maven central repository, MVN repository, which is nothing but. Then if it is not able to find, it will go and check in your local Maven repository. So this is available under your profile, local disk C and your profile, and inside that you will find .m2 folder. My application is still building, and I got build success here. Then I need to run my application. So this is the application main class. I can even use run as Java application. I right click and this project run as Java application, or I can run even using this option here in the IDE. So let me use the regular approach, run as Java application. So I'm expanding console. You can see, the logs printing in the console. Being a developer, you must, observe the all the log statements which are printing into the console, so that if there are any issues, during the build or running time, you will, read and you will try to provide a solutions. So as of now, everything looks good. I didn't face any problem. Let me explain these logs. So as soon as I run as Java application, um, it is trying to start application, starting Aja Spring Boot application using the Java version, which I'm using is 21, and the PID. And so in Spring, we have a concept called profiles. As of now, I'm not touching it. And Tomcat is, my Spring Boot application will have an embedded server, which is Tomcat server. And the port number I configured is 9097 in application.practice. And if you see here, it is mentioning that Tomcat is started on port number 9097, and at last it is saying started as a Spring Boot application in 14 seconds. It took 14 seconds to build and run my application. Let me minimize the console. And now I am going to test this application. This is an employee object. So whatever attributes are here, I am sending the same data from the database. from the Postman. So this is the Postman, and so localhost colon 9097 is the port number which we are using right now. If you look at the logs, you will see Tomcat is started in the 9097 port, and my API. Okay, sorry, I missed a part. So my API will have a annotation called post mapping, and we have to provide mapping value save employee, and I stopped my server, and we have to import this annotation, otherwise it will not work. Let me build my application again. Maven clean, Maven install. For building, it will take few seconds. Okay, the build got success. You can see here. And let me run this in the debugger mode. So if you look at here, employee has four attributes: ID, name, salary, and department. I'll send these, attributes from the Postman, and it will come to our application. Data will come to our application, and it will save the database. Tomcat it started again 9097 port. Let me send see. Now this is a Postman, and this is the save employee URL is configured on top of our controller. As I said, this is a front controller to application. So we must ensure that whatever URL mapping we are using here, we have to pass the same. And since we are using post mapping is basically used to save the data into the database. And you have to ensure the type should be post since we are saving the data into the database. And I have choose raw JSON and the JSON structure here. As I said, I have name, salary, department I am providing here. I need not to provide ID because ID will be auto generated in the database. So if you are saving 5 records, it will give you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And if you are saving 6th record, it will keep on increasing. And let me send the request as I'm running the application in the debug mode. See, ID I didn't provide. I got the 102 ID as a response because I used employee the employee data we are saving in the database. I'm returning the same employee. Let's go to employee database and look at the table whether the data is stored or not. See 102,000 IT AB it is stored, and let me send some different data. Aja consulting services and salary I want to change, and IT software. Let me send this data, and you could see the ID is increased from 1012 to 103, and the response we got it here. Let me check same data is stored in the database or not. See, data is stored in the database. So this is all about our Java Spring Boot application saving the data into database. Uh, please like, share, subscribe to Aja Consulting Services. Stay tuned for more updates. Thank you.